Go inward and look at your anger and feel it and look at it square in the eye. What makes you angry? Why are you angry? What is the source of it? Sometimes in the process, you'll discover some things about yourself. So people want to know about ideas about channeling anger and channeling that kind of dark energy. It's something very personal to me because I've explained it before. I have kind of deep degrees of anger to me. I tended to be, when I was younger, a somewhat passive person, an observer of things. And then I would resent stuff, and anger would kind of stay inside of me. And I've learned since then that I have to deal with it, that I can't just let anger sit there or repress it. And so when I was able to write the 48 Laws of Power, all of that anger, all of that feeling of resentment towards people who were mean to me, to all the egos and all the politicking and all the things that I hated in life, and all the people that I thought were mediocre but had risen to power based on all of their ability to brown nose and kind of politic their way to power. I was able to stick the knife into them in the 48 Laws of Power. I was able to have my revenge on it. I vented my anger indirectly. So when you read the book, you don't see Robert going, I hated this person. You never hear me, but through my stories and through the tone of it, you can detect an undercurrent of anger. And so what I tell people is the worst thing you can do is to try and repress it and tap it down, right? Of course, you don't want to do the opposite either. You don't want to be venting and yelling at people and yelling at your spouse, your partner, your children. That's not good either. But what most people do is they repress it. They don't deal with it. They try and ignore it because they know it's going to get them in trouble. But when you repress it, it comes out in other ways. It comes out when you're not expecting it. Suddenly you'll burst out in anger at someone, you'll yell at them, and you'll really regret it because you didn't mean to, you didn't control it. It's that repression that bursts out of you in moments where you can't control it, right? It'll come out in other ways. It's never good to repress these things. What do you do? What is the strategy? Well, I'll tell you what that is. First of all, go inward and look at your anger and see it and feel it and look at it square in the eye. What makes you angry? Why are you angry? What is the source of it? Sometimes in the process, you'll discover some things about yourself. You discover that you have some resentments you've never dealt with about your parents. A lot of anger is what we call unfinished business. Unfinished business from your childhood, things that you forgot you're not dealing with anymore. Issues with those authority figures, your parents, early on, maybe your teachers or an older sibling. And they sit in you and they create these patterns of anger that go on, that trail you throughout your life. So look at your anger, go inward and try and analyze it and see what makes me angry, what makes me the angriest, and why do I feel that way? And bring some intelligence to it instead of just the pure raw emotional aspect of it, some awareness to it. Once you have that, what you really need to do is you need to channel that anger into something productive. Now, there's several ways to do that. So let's say you're angry about the world, about politics, about global warming, about those selfish politicians that are governing us, things that are so massive that you just want to kill somebody. It makes you so angry. The best way to channel that kind of anger is to become an activist, to create some kind of movement, some kind of action committee or some kind of protest that will energize other people, and you'll channel your anger into actually getting things done as opposed to whining and complaining, saying, God, I hate these people, blah, blah, blah. Do something for God's sake and make it productive. Make it channeled and organized and disciplined. Anger tends to be all over the place. It's like a river that just floods everywhere. You want that neat, controlled little channel of water. And you can direct that anger by organizing it into some kind of focused purpose and direction and goal. The other way is through ambition and being competitive. I know ambition and being competitive has a dirty connotation nowadays, but it shouldn't. You want to make it's not like you want to hurt people in your rise in creating something great. It's not like you want to crush or upset people or humiliate them. Your ambition, your competitive nature is to making yourself incredibly great at what you do, so good that nobody can compete with you. Icon of that I've mentioned many times before is Kobe Bryant, a young man who had lots of anger issues. He was very frank about it. He took that, he put it on the basketball court, right? And we see the results. He was so competitive, nobody could beat him at anything. Michael Jordan was like that to a degree that was maybe even a little more unhealthy than Kobe Bryant, because he brought that into gambling and other things. But that sense of, I'm the best at what I do, nobody's going to beat me. In sports, that works great. It can also work great in business, as long as you're not humiliating people and using it as a form of upsetting and creating pain in this world. The other thing I tell people is, if you're an artist, a filmmaker, a writer, follow my path and put that anger in there. Because we live in a culture that is so politically correct, that is so goddamn woke, that all of us are holding our tongues. We don't dare say anything. We're so frightened, we're shivering all the time. If I say this, I'm going to be canceled. If I display this behavior, I'm going to be canceled. No, I better be careful. We resent it. We create levels of anger that just sit inside of us because we have to be so careful, right? If you take your work and you create a film or a book or whatever it is, and you put that anger in there in a way that's kind of direct, that expresses it, people are going to love it. They're going to be attracted to it. They're going to be drawn to it because they feel so repressed. Unfortunately, politicians tend to play on people's anger in a way that's demagogic. And that is a negative way because they're not creating something productive. They're using it as a way to kind of deceive people and to kind of channel their anger for their own purposes. And I'm not advocating that. I'm advocating channeling your anger to help people, to help express things that they feel that they are repressing and that you put into your creative work, and that kind of give us all a sense of release. Somebody's finally talking about that. Somebody's finally expressing the anger that we're all feeling. There are other ways to make it productive, but those will give you some ideas. Do not repress your anger, but find a way to channel it into something productive.